systems are go. We finally got it. Again, appreciate everybody for watching. This is Scout Team Sports. I am your host, DeValian, and we are coming in on Conference Championship Weekend. Tomorrow, both games, AFC Championship and NFC Championship. I went a perfect 4 for 4 after only getting one right in the wild card round. A perfect 4 for 4 in the divisional round. Unfortunately, I hated to be right about the Chiefs and the Bills, but I don't know. It's like Josh Allen is now Jim Kelly, but Jim Kelly got to the Super Bowl and Josh Allen can't get past the divisional round of the playoffs. So I know it's not all on him, the defense and whatnot, but that last drive, like, they had the opportunity to get the go-ahead touchdown and they couldn't punch it in. Now, has KC's defense gotten better over the years? Yes, but to me, they're still suspect. They're not that great. And they're definitely not ranked, even though their ranking is number 2. I don't believe that they're the number 2 defense in the league. So there's a lot to be said for that. But Josh Allen he was punching it in earlier. Should have been able to do that. Then the missed field goal happened, so they couldn't tie it up and then go to overtime. Who knows what would happen? But you had the opportunity to get the go-ahead touchdown. You couldn't get it. Hey, that's my preview, I guess. Once again, welcome into Scout Team Sports. I am your host, DeValian. I appreciate all of my subscribers for subscribing and viewers. Even if you're not subscribed, I just appreciate you watching this podcast. Now that we're on YouTube and off of Anchor, so this seems to be a better thing going for us here. But we're moving right along. We're going to cover both conference championship games as well as some NBA talk. So we get into it with the AFC Championship game. This is what I predicted. In a way, it's fitting for, all due respect, disregarding the Bills here, for everything that's been said about Lamar Jackson and what he has to do and what he has to accomplish in order to legitimize, number one, his new contract, and two, him being a legitimate top-tier elite quarterback. It's almost fitting that he has to get past Pat Mahomes in order to reach a Super Bowl. It's almost fitting that he has to get past Pat Mahomes in order to reach a Super Bowl. The Chiefs are the gatekeepers of the AFC. They're the gatekeepers. Pat Mahomes is the gatekeeper. How many conference championships have they been to straight? I think they're at, wait, let me look. Got 7. So no, this is 8. Yeah, I was thinking about the first one. This is 8. So, I mean, this is 7. I'm thinking, okay, 7. So it's fitting that Lamar has to get past this team. He has to get past this defense, who's the strongest they've ever been, even though they're not still as good as the Ravens defense, is my opinion. I don't care what the rankings say. I look at how they play. And in order for him to achieve, and I think that he will. But let's get into a little bit more of the breakdown. When you look at the rankings, yes, the Ravens have to get better at the running game, and it has to be independent of Lamar. Like Gus Edwards and company, and the rest of the running backs, they've got kind of a 3-headed monster, aside from which includes Lamar Jackson. But the actual running backs and the running game, the offensive line, they need to be able to run the football and run it effectively. Doesn't mean they're going to run it down their throats, but they have to be able to run it effectively, independent of when the pocket breaks down in a pass play and then Lamar is scrambling. That's great. But if you don't have that as an element of surprise any longer, and the Chiefs are waiting for it every time, you're going to nullify the running game. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot, because they know the only way the Ravens can run the football is when the pocket breaks down the pass play, and all you have to do is put a spy on Lamar. And not to say that Lamar couldn't get past the spy, but he won't get past the spy every time. Neither will he try to run every time that he knows a spy is on him. So you have to be able to run the football with Gus Edwards and company. To me, he's the number one back, as well as their other running backs that they switch in and out of frequently. You have to be able to run the football and run it effectively. Like I said, they don't have to bust it wide open with 70-yard gains. I don't think that's going to happen. They don't have any running back that really has that type of speed. But they have to be able to get 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards a game, a carry, average that, and every now and then get a first down. They have to be able to do that running the football with their running backs and run blocking of their O-line. They need to be able to do that. When you don't do that and you rely on Lamar to do all the running, you make it harder on Lamar. So not only does he have to do passing, he has to do the running game. You've got to be able to run the ball more effectively. I really love Zay Flowers. Even though he's a rookie, he is their number one wide receiver. I would like to see Odell Beckham utilized more. I would like to see him targeted more. And I think they're going to need that. The Chiefs are going, the Ravens are going to need to pass more on the Chiefs than they did on the Texans. It was a lot of, well, Lamar's going to run when the pocket breaks down. And because we couldn't run the football effectively, then here's a passing game. Zay Flowers gets a couple catches. Thought Mark Andrews was going to play, but then he didn't. And so, yeah, I think Odell Beckham needs to come into play a lot more this game. They're going to need him. They're going to need Zay. They're going to need Andrews if he's ready to go. They're going to need their running game. And they'll make it work. I believe that they'll make it work. But the key is, to me, is that running game without Lamar. You need to be able to run without Lamar. That way you add Lamar as an element of surprise, because trust me, they were watching that Texans tape, and they're not going to let that happen if that's the only way that you are going to try to run the football on that Chiefs defense. So they need the Ravens offense need to be multidimensional in terms of how they run the football and how they pass the football as well. On the other side of the ball, Pat Mahomes comes into this game with this Chiefs offense that, has seen some bumpy roads, but they're still an elite team in terms of, they always make the playoffs. And even though they're not the number one seed, number 3 is not far from it. So it's not like they're just horrible. This is just the worst that we've seen them since they won their first championship. That's really what it is, and that's why they get the negative flag. And then seeing Pat Mahomes get frustrated because one of his wide receivers was offsides, which nullified a trick play, which is why they didn't beat the Bills in the regular season. Then we see all that stuff and we're thinking, oh, this is the worst Chiefs team. Well, this is still an elite Chiefs team. They still won a division. They're still, and by the way, Jim Harbaugh is now the coach of the Chargers. I really don't like that, but we got our coach. Raiders got their coach, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, the Chiefs are still an elite team, and they're here for a reason. And the main reason is number 15. It's not the coach. It's not the coaching. I still think they're not as good without Eric Bieniemy as they are with him. And I think that eventually will show, whether it be if they make it to the Super Bowl or here. I think it's going to be here. I think it's going to be here. And I think they won't have enough creativity to get past this Ravens defense. And I think that when it comes down to Pat Mahomes and the pressure that he's going to receive, I think you go back to the best thing that worked, and that was when the Bucs faced him in the Super Bowl a few years back. The main thing was they blitzed, and they're betting on the fact that we can get to you before you get the ball downfield. And if you can't pass the ball downfield, and if you lock up Travis Kelce, what else do they have? Rice is doing good. I will say Rice is doing good, and he does have number 4 on his back. So, but anyway, Rice is doing good as a wide receiver, and he is emerging as probably the next most reliable target after Kelce. So you could call that, a factor. Pacheco in the running game, meh. I mean, he could make a stride here and there, but I don't see him as a full on out threat. If anything, it's mainly just in the passing game, and the pocket breaks down, dump it off to him, and he can scramble and get a couple yards. Maybe he breaks one. But just running game between the tackles or sweeping plays outside of the tackles, I don't see Pacheco being a difference maker. I don't see him being a difference maker, which to me nullifies the rushing game. And if it's just the passing game, I don't see how you beat the Ravens. I don't see how you beat the Ravens defense. You have to have a balanced attack. You have to have a threat in both facets. You cannot just pass on this team to me and beat them. You might score on them. You're definitely going to, and Pat Mahomes is definitely going to do that. But I don't think just the passing game alone is enough to beat this Ravens defense. And I think that's why they come away with the win, because eventually, the Chiefs are going to maybe try to run football a little bit. They'll give up pretty early, and then it'll just be passing 96% of the time from there on. And I don't think you beat the Ravens defense like that unless the Ravens offense isn't producing and the Ravens defense is just on the field the entire game and they get tired. And the easiest way to get them tired is to have them running all over the field in the passing game, and their offense isn't giving them a rest. So I think that's the way that the Chiefs would have to win this football game, because I don't think that they can rely on their rushing attack. They still can't, but if you've been able to get by without it for so long, why would you change now, right? And I think that eventually somebody's going to have to give them a wake-up call and say, no, you can't do this anymore. I think the Ravens are the team to do that. I think the Ravens defense is the team to do that. No, you can't do this anymore. You can't just pass all the time, not have an effective running game, not having a balanced attack, and think you're just going to breeze through this league. And they've been doing that. Refs have been helping a little bit as well, but I think the Ravens put a stop to it. Meaning, you get one-dimensional on us, we're gonna shut you down, or at least stop you to the point where we can get ahead and we win the football game. I don't care about the Ravens winning, or people were shocked when they blew out the Niners. It was like, okay, it's a regular season game, and if those two teams are going to meet again in the Super Bowl, I highly doubt it's going to be a blowout again. But in the playoffs, I don't care if you blow them out or not, as long as you beat them. That's what matters. Even if it's by 1 point, as long as you beat them, you send them home. That's the main thing. So I think the Ravens get the job done, because I think that the Chiefs eventually are going to give up on the running game too early. They're going to just go passing for the rest of the game, and I don't think that is enough. I don't think an unbalanced attack is enough to beat the Ravens defense. You've got to be able to run and pass. On the other side of the ball, I think the Ravens take advantage of a Chiefs defense that will get tired because they're on the field too much. And every now and then the Chiefs offense falls short, so the Chiefs defense has to get right back on the field. And I think that's enough for the Ravens, who, in my opinion, will have a more balanced attack, run and pass. I think the balanced attack of run and pass, keeping that Chiefs defense guessing, is what's going to allow them to get the upper hand. Notice I said the upper hand, not a blowout, not anything like that, but get the upper hand, get the lead, and then the Ravens defense holds on to the lead. So I'm picking the Ravens over the Chiefs. I'm going to go with a score of 31-28. 31-28 Ravens. And now we get to the NFC Championship game. We've got the Liners. I don't know why I would combine them. Lions at Niners. And then I want to say Niners hosting Lions. Pick a side. Anyway. Yeah. So here's the thing. What people are underestimating about the Lions. The Lions offense is just as good as the Niners offense. And then you're like, oh, your initial reaction, whoa, no. What the media says this, the media said, no. Bump what all the media is saying. Do you actually watch the football games? Do you actually see what's going on? The difference between the Lions offense and the Niners offense is the Niners offense has been doing it longer. The Niners offense has household names, whether they were drafted by the Niners or they came from another team. And those names are household names around the league, and they're more popular. because they're more well known. And yes, they have the edge because they have experience. But if you're talking about the number of weapons, that's not uneven. The Lions have just as many weapons on offense as the Niners do. It's just that the Niners' offensive weapons are more polished, they're more popular, and they're more well known. Let's look at the running backs. And of course, Debo is a Swiss Army knife, but we'll just put him in the running back position for now. Debo and McCaffrey not drafted by the Niners, traded. And now you have Debo and McCaffrey. You know, both of those guys, when healthy, are weapons. I'm going to presume that Debo's going to play. And he needs to play for them to be able to win. He's not the only reason they would win, but he needs to be there in order for them to win. Excuse me. But the Lions have Montgomery and they have Gibbs, the rookie. Those two have been just as effective as Debo and McCaffrey have been in the Niners wins. Montgomery and Gibbs have been just as effective in the Lions wins. So if you look at what they've been able to do, Montgomery in the season, 1,015 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns. Gibbs, 945 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. That's almost even. So you can't say, oh, if we take out one of those running backs and the other one won't hurt us as much. No, these two guys can equally hurt you, just like Debo and McCaffrey can. If you think, oh, we've got Montgomery on lock, Gibbs ain't going to hurt us, you're wrong. If you think we've got Gibbs on lock, Montgomery ain't going to hurt us, you're wrong. Those two can hurt a defense just as much as McCaffrey and Debo can. So in that regard, you're even. It's just that Gibbs is younger, he's a rookie, and Montgomery is not as popular as McCaffrey and Debo. That's all that is. That's the only difference. But they are just as effective of a running back duo. And they're both technically really running backs, as opposed to Debo. Sometimes he's going to be a wide receiver, sometimes he's going to be a running back. Go to the quarterbacks. If you go to the quarterbacks, yes, Brock Purdy has done great. Yes, Brock Purdy has done well, worthy of being the franchise quarterback of the Niners for the foreseeable future. But Jared Goff is still a better quarterback. I said it. He's got the weapons around him that are not as popular, but they are just as effective. It's about what you get done, not about how popular you are and what your stats are. That don't matter in the playoffs. What do you do when you lining up against the man in front of you? That's what matters. So you take that into account. Jared Goff is better, in my opinion, a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. And I'm not talking about look at all that he did with the Rams, look at all that he did in the past. He went to a Super Bowl before. Super Bowl experience, previous Super Bowl experience is a plus. But I'm not relying on that because we're at this point right now. Let's just take a sample size of last year. Brock Purdy got to the NFC Championship game. He got hurt. We don't know what he would have done against the Eagles. And then now Jared Goff is at this point when he's got a good team around him. But if you're going head to head, I'm taking Jared Goff over Brock Purdy. He's a better quarterback. Now, it's not only about that because it's about who's a better team. Okay? So when you get to, if you take out the running backs, you take out the quarterback, now let's go to the wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta have been just as effective as George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. Where's the difference there? One side can have more stats. Doesn't matter. How effective have they been for their teams? And now the Lions pick up Zach Ertz for some extra insurance at the tight end position to help them out. I don't know how effective that's going to be. I think he'd probably be on a pitch count because they just signed him. But wide receiver to wide receiver. And again, I'm taking Debo out because he's a Swiss Army knife. He could be a receiver, could be running back. We don't know. But then you take him out and you match up 2 and 2. St. Brown and Laporta could be just as effective and have been just as effective as George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. There's no difference there. I'm not talking about stats. Again, I'm talking about how effective are they for their team in helping them get wins. Those two are just as effective. Even with Sam Laporta getting hurt at times, even with them picking up another tight end, then you've got to account for that as well, because we don't know what Zach Ertz is going to do, and it would be a fool's goal to underestimate him at this point, because you don't know how they're going to utilize him. We don't know how they're going to utilize him. So, and I like it, the fact that these teams have not met in the regular season, so we can't get a preview or anything like that. So, let's see here. Then where it comes down to is the defense. This is where it comes down to, is the defense. Lions have been doing well on defense, but the Niners defense is better. So, if you remember what I talked about, who is the weakest link out of these four? Lions offense, Lions defense, Niners offense, Niners defense. The weakest link is not the Lions defense. The only way that the Lions could win this football game is if the Lions defense, just like I talked about with Chiefs and Ravens, if the Lions defense can get to Brock Purdy before he gets the ball off, before he gets the ball down the field. And I do believe he's going to need to be able to throw deep a few times. He's not going to be able to just nickel and dime his way the whole game. If they can blitz and get to him before he gets the ball off, if the Lions front seven can do that, they have a shot to win this game, because I don't put too much faith in the Lions secondary. Brock Purdy, if he gets enough time, will eat them up. He will eat them alive. He will tear them apart. But if the Lions front seven can disrupt his flow, can rough him up, can get some hits on him, can sack him, can blitz him, can throw him off his rhythm before he can get the ball off, that's how the Lions are going to win this football game. I'm not worried about the Lions offense versus the Niners defense. That's going to be a back and forth. Lions offense is going to win sometimes, get the upper hand. Niners defense is going to stop them sometimes. The key is Niners offense versus Lions defense, because the Lions defense is the weakest link of these four. Offense and defense for both teams, the Lions defense is the weakest link. Now, in the playoffs, they've been playing a lot better than what they were doing in the regular season, but they still give up points. They still give up a lot of yards. Some teams, they can give up a lot of yards, but they still won't give up the points. I put that more on the Ravens defense than I would the Lions defense. The Lions, if they're giving up a lot of yards, more than likely they're giving up a lot of points too. But, like I said, that's the only way that I think that the Lions can win this game. Their defense needs to come through in a major way. They need to disrupt, they need to sack, they need to knock down Brock Purdy, throw him off his rhythm, make him have happy feet, because when the Niners do need to pass the football, then he's off his rhythm. They've got a shot. They can pick him off. They get a pick six or maybe even 2 defensive touchdowns, they've got the game. Because you combine what their offense can do along with help from the defense. Now, consequently, of course, if it happens the other way, of course, the Niners, they'll run away with this game. If their defense starts to score, then they'll run away with this game. But we already know that the Niners can do that. The Lions have to be able to do that and get to that point before the Niners do. That's the way that the Lions can win this football game. I'm not looking at believing, because this team's their first year and they've been able to overcome the odds and whatnot. But I think Aiden Hutchinson is on the verge of becoming one of the best defensive ends in the league. He's on the verge. He's not there yet. He's not there yet. But he's on the verge. I think he's on the verge of becoming one of the best. So when it comes down to the game itself, NFC Championship, offenses are the same. The stronger defense is with the Niners. I'm going to go with the Lions. I'm going with the Lions. It's not about the I believe, and all this stuff. No, it's not about that. It's about them going in and having a game plan to disrupt Brock Purdy. Like I said, offense and offense are going to be able to play well. This is going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a tight game. But offense and offense are going to be able to play well. But that defense, I think the Lions get to Brock Purdy, and I think that they disrupt him and they cause a defensive turnover, a defensive score, and that is the difference in the game. I think that's the difference in the game. So I think the Lions win this game here it's going to be a nail biter. I think it's going to be a nail biter. I think the Lions can win this game and will win this game and will go on and go to their first Super Bowl. I hate it for the Niners. I still, I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners won. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like a lot of media heads are talking about. I think they're underestimating the Lions. Again, it ain't about the belief in the first year and everybody's happy and the Lions are the sexy pick because they're on this emotional high because they're at a place where they haven't been since '91 and they've never been to a Super Bowl before and achieving the dream. I'm not into that. I'm looking at the game itself. I'm looking at just what I've been talking about. I think the Lions do it. I think they disrupt Brock Purdy and they get to Brock Purdy before he gets into a rhythm, especially in the second half. They'll disrupt him. They'll get him. They'll sack him. They'll force a turnover. And I think that'll be a difference in the game because, again, Debo may be healthy. Number one, that's another thing. Debo may be going in this game, but Debo's still not 100%. I don't think McCaffrey is 100%, even with him getting rest off of that minor calf injury. So I think that's something to look out for because I don't think both of those guys are 100%. Either one of them is 100%. And they can still play hard and they can still do well and be effective in this game. But them not at full speed, them not at full power, and most people will say, "Oh, I'll trust them at 80% over 100% of what the Lions got." That's a mistake. That's a mistake. That really is a mistake. So I've got the Lions winning here. I wanted to see. I will say that I do really want to see a Niners and Ravens rematch. Regular season, I don't believe that was an indication of what the Niners really can do. And Brock Purdy has got to do better than that, throwing 4 interceptions and stuff. I think on a second go around, especially in the Super Bowl, Shanahan would have a lot more to dish out. And I could see him, especially in that game as well, when they were losing to the Ravens. I could just see him like he already know the game is lost. He's feeling out this team and seeing what he can plan and what he can scheme, because if they meet him again in the Super Bowl, he's going to have some tricks up his sleeve. He's not going to allow that to the same type of performance to happen again. He's scouting that team. But they can't be overlooking the Lions here. Drop me some comments in the comments section. Let me know what you think about these two championship games. I'm picking Ravens and Lions here. I would like to see Ravens and Niners. I would like to see that again, but I think it's going to be Ravens and Lions. So that's who I got in the Super Bowl. Again, let me know your comments. Let me know your opinions, your picks down in the comments section. And now we get over into the NBA, just a little bit of NBA talk here. So from what I see, again, of course, Doc Rivers is now the Bucks head coach. I don't really think an exit from the last coach was really all that necessary, but I think there's got to be something internally going on that we don't know about. Doncic just scored 73 points in the game, tied for 4th in NBA history. And then Devin Booker no stranger to it. 62 points. He's done this before. 62 points in his scoring spree. I want to know from you. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Is this more about these 73-point showings? 73 points, Booker from Luka, and then Booker with 62. When Embiid went off for 70. Is this just the offensive prowess of today's NBA just going off, or is it the lack of defense? Most people are going to go in the middle and say it's a combination of both. But I look at defense and I look at how these guys play. Now, yeah, you can't do what you were able to do back in the day. You can't hand check. You can't be as rough physically with offensive players as you were to be in the past. But when I look at defense, what they're supposed to teach you in grade school and high school basketball, college, I don't really see translating into the pros. And I'm talking about footwork, defensive footwork, staying on your assignment, not wandering off and watching the ball. A lot of guys on defense now, they'll watch the ball, and then when the ball gets passed to the man that they're supposed to be guarding, they're like 5 feet off of him. Like, you stop watching the ball and drifting toward the ball because you think you got to make a defensive play to help somebody out, and then your man, when the guy penetrates the paint, then he dishes out to the corner and your man is wide open because you've been drawn into where the ball is going and thinking you're going to help out and make a defensive play, and he easily dishes out to your man you're supposed to be guarding in the corner, wide open. Why does that happen so much? Because guys are not sticking to their post. They're not sticking to the man that they're supposed to be guarding. And yes, I get it. There's a man coverage and there's a zone coverage. There's a man defense and a zone defense in basketball. But even with zone defense, you shouldn't be that far off to where you can't get to him and at least put a hand up in his face. And even in man defense, a lot of times these guys they see the ball on defense, they see the ball, that's where they want to go, and then they leave their man wide open for an easy assist from the guy who's penetrating the paint and dishing out to the corner. So to me, that is a lack of defense. Number one, you can't be watching the ball. Two, you got to have good defensive footwork. Whether you're in zone defense or man defense, you have to have better footwork. I don't see that. I don't see the footwork defensively. I don't see, and I see too much ball watching on defense. So I think defenses and coaches have to get better to where you are not allowing 50, 60, 70 point performances in the NBA. Now, yes, it's good. For those who love offense, it's great. For TV, it's great. I get it. But I'm a nerd, so I'm just breaking it down. Hats off to them for scoring that many points. If the defense is going to let you do it, take advantage of it and help your team win. I ain't tripping. But I'm just analyzing the other side of it. Why is that happening, and happening so much more often than it used to? You used to only maybe see a 50-point game. I mean, Jordan did it, and then that was it. You didn't see many other people doing it. Maybe Larry Bird would get off and go crazy one day. Maybe, another prolific shooter would do it one time the entire season. But these guys are doing it multiple times in a season. Not just once every 2 or 3 years. It's every season they're doing this. So they're doing it every season. You got to think, okay, well, where's the defense at? Where is the defense? Guys do get paid to play defense, right? It's not just about offense and, as far as the contracts that you get. Now, maybe they get the highest paying contracts because they score all the points. Okay, but I mean, everybody can't do that. So I mean, like, if you can't make your name known by way of offense, make your name known by way of defense. So, I mean, it says, the media on NBA.com talks about Luka shocks NBA with 73-point rampage. Is it really a shock? No, because a lot of teams don't play defense. Think about most guards. How many guards can you name that play good defense? The first one that comes to mind is Drew Holiday. Then where do you go? Where do you go as far as guards that play good defense? Because think about it. What does Luka play? Guard. What does Devin Booker play? Guard. It's going to be most of the Steph Curry plays guard. Most of the time, it's going to be guards going off like this. Embiid is a unicorn. Ain't no centers going off like that. Kareem didn't even do that. But Kareem didn't shoot threes. If Kareem was shooting threes back in his day, he'd have set that record at what? Past Wilt Chamberlain, 170 points, like that. 125, let's be realistic. 125 points. Wilt got 100 points one game. But he'd have set it like 125 points and nobody would ever touch that if Kareem shot 3-pointers. I'm like, and Kareem is, to me, is the GOAT. Kareem is the GOAT. Even over Jordan and over LeBron, to me. I know that's in the minority, but to me, and I'm not a Laker fan, I don't have a favorite NBA team, but to me, Kareem is the GOAT. He's still the GOAT. Even with LeBron surpassing his scoring title and whatnot, to me, Kareem is the GOAT. But that's another conversation, another time. But, yeah. I just think, if it's happening, like I said, this is not a shock anymore. 50 points, 60 points, 70 points, 80 points. It's not a shock anymore. Because obviously the defense is just not there. And I'm like one that I like balance. I like some good offense. I like some good defense. If somebody scores 45 points, okay, yeah, he was hot that night. He was on it. But it's like you get to 50, 60, 70. It's like, okay, did the defense just quit? Again, they just start ball watching. They're like, oh, he's hot. Let's just watch him launch these deep threes, not even contest. Let's just watch the ball. Oh, man. Oh, boy. But, yeah. And moving on, we got hats off to LeBron for making his history with his 20th All-Star appearance that will be coming up. 20 All-Star appearances. Yeah, he's been able to do it longer than anybody else. He's got the scoring title now, breaking Kareem's record again. Kareem had the most all-star selections, and now LeBron has that as well. LeBron is definitely one of the greats. I just can't call him the GOAT. To me, Kareem is still the GOAT. If you think about back in Kareem's time too, in terms of what was popular and what people were able to do. And yes, the 3-point shot wasn't as popular, but it was still available. People just didn't utilize it. Players didn't utilize it as much. And for him to do what he did when the game was really restrictive of, didn't encourage 3-point shots, and he couldn't shoot 3-point shots, and he did all that he did with just 2-pointers and free throws and the skyhook. And now you've got guys coming along who are banging 3-pointers like it's nothing. Yeah, you can get to those records faster than Kareem would. Because if you hit 3-pointers, that's a lot more points than 3. If you hit 10 3-pointers, that's a lot more points than 10 2-pointers. So, but, this is the all-star thing. Like I said, hats off to LeBron for breaking that record, the all-star appearance. All-star appearance is the main thing. It's not the actual all-star game. It's not the actual what you're doing in all-star game, because we know that those things have changed. And when I talked about last week, as far as, it actually being meaningful and worth something, and, it just being East versus West, as opposed to they're going to be the captains and then they're going to pick their teams like this is pickup basketball back when you were in grade school. And you're at PE class, or you're, during recess, and you want to pick your teams, and everybody's picking all the good players on one team. Then they beat up on all the weaker guys. So, I guess the All-Star game is just about family fun, all that good stuff. I'll be watching the 3-point shootout and the slam dunk contest, the All-Star game. If I ain't got nothing else to do, okay. But anyway, yeah, that has been it for Scout Team Sports. I am your host, DeValian. We will be back next week, next Saturday, for our next podcast and live stream. Be on the lookout for the midweek scramble on Wednesday night, the YouTube short, and that's been doing very well. I am very impressed and very thankful for the support on the YouTube shorts. Let me know if you want more of those. If you want more of those, I'll do more of those. And then we'll bring out more content to you. And we'll cover breaking news as it happens for Scout Team Sports. Once again, I'm your host, DeValian, with Scout Team Sports Podcast. Believe until you stop breathing. Appreciate all my support. Please continue to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next podcast.